This is Jeanne of Heritage of Truth. Do you or your children ever question whether the Bible is true? What can you do with a crisis of faith? Tim Mahoney is my guest. Welcome to Heritage of Truth. Today we welcome back Tim Mahoney. So good to have you back.
It's great to be back.
So tell us what you've been up to.
Well, since we made the first film, Patterns of Evidence, the Exodus, it's actually gone around the world. Japan was my latest, someone sent us an email just telling us how much they appreciated this film. In fact, they cried tears of joy. And Patterns of Evidence, as your audience might not be aware of, actually looks at the story of the Exodus. A lot of people have said there's just no evidence for the Exodus. And when I heard that, it caused a crisis of faith actually in my own life, and that put me on a 12-year journey to investigate the evidence of the Exodus. And what we did find was an amazing pattern of evidence for 6 major events in the Bible.
Yeah.
And so eventually we had these children coming to the showings and with their family. And I thought, I should work at maybe creating another version. And so what I did was I was able to take elements from the first film, and the idea came to me, what if we told a story of a bunch of kids going on a camping trip and are interested in the fact that I went to Egypt. And some of them said, well, how do we even know the stories of the Bible are true? And I basically said, well, you'll hear that. There will be people who will say that. And that's a good question. But let's not be afraid of asking questions, but let's go and look for the answers. So they joined me on this investigation. And each week, and this is the box that we have, it's called Patterns of Evidence Young Explorers. Each week, I give them an invitation to join me. And in that invitation, they're supposed to read their Bibles. And this has been a great thing for them to get their Bibles. A lot of young people don't even know that there's an earlier, the Old Testament exists. So they go, and this is in the book of Exodus, that they go, and in Joshua. So we start in Exodus, and they start reading the scriptures, and that then prepares them for the adventure that week. And so we have created 5 different DVDs, and this here is a box set that has these adventures. Let me just read one to you. The Adventure of Abraham's Promise, The Search for the Amazing Rise of Joseph, The Case of the Israelite Slaves and the Wicked Pharaoh. That's episode 3. Episode 4 is The Hunt for 10 Plagues and the Exodus from Egypt, and The Mystery of Joshua and the Falling Walls of Jericho. So those are the 5 episodes. If you would like, you can take your children or your grandchildren through this, and we have a Bible study, home family devotional. It comes along with this kit, and it's also now developed into a homeschool curriculum. And we've got a high school curriculum coming out this summer as well.
Those are new things I didn't know about.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So I remember when we talked with you last time, you talked about going on to study past that time in history. So have you been working on that?
In fact, we're preparing now to go back to the Middle East, to Israel, to Jordan, and we're going to be we're working on the route of the Exodus. So over the course of the 12 years, I have done a lot of filming. And a lot of that is what we call in the filmmaking world in the can. But there's other parts that are new that people haven't heard of. There's new discoveries that people have made. And so what we're going to do is continue this journey. And this new series that we're working on is called Patterns of Evidence, Moses. The first one was Exodus, and now we're going to Moses. We're going to look at the life of Moses from the time he was a child in Egypt, being raised, to the point of him going off to the land of Midian, and then the burning bush, and then coming back. And we're going to basically follow the route of the Exodus. People suggest there's many locations where the route might have gone. We're going to look at those locations. We're going to look at what mountains they might have gone, what sea might have been, crossed. I guess it's the sea first and then the mountains. I shouldn't have said it that way. But we're going to look at all that. And we're also going to discuss the question of miracles. A lot of people have a hard time believing that miracles ever happen. And so that's the vision of the new series. And we're looking at the goal, if we can reach it, is 4 episodes, 4 hours of the story of the Exodus.
Wow. That sounds like a big project.
But there's more.
Oh, okay.
So we also have a new book that is for small groups. So if someone would like their church to basically show patterns of evidence, we actually have a movie event kit that the church can have. And if you think about it, it's very possible that with the movie event kit, they could show this film. They could show also, take their Sunday school potentially, or their students through some of this with young explorers. So the whole congregation could go through that. But then we have a follow-up, which is called the Evidence of Faith. It's a new small group study guide. It has an introduction in 10 chapters, and at the end of each chapter there are questions. So if a church has a small group, they could go through this and really explore the story of the Exodus and questions about faith and evidence and miracles, and is it important that there's a history to our faith?
Yeah, that's really important for us to understand, that the Bible is historical and it's true history, and you found that out.
Yeah. The reason why I think that's so important is that what we're doing is there's a lot of belief systems out there, and what people have tried to do is say, well, my belief system is here and it's equal to you can believe whatever you want to believe. But the challenge with, I believe, my sense of it is that these belief systems don't have anything, they don't have any foundation to them. So that's the reason why I think it's important that as we look at the Bible, that it is a history. And that's what the Bible basically says that it is. That it's a history, and it tells us the origin of the world, the universe, and the origin of mankind, and that sin entered the world through Adam and Eve. I think that's very significant because it helps people to know how we got here. And I believe that if we just equate our belief systems based upon whatever I want, if I believe this or I believe that, you have to ask more serious questions like, well, what's the proof that what you're suggesting has any actual reality to it? Because I had to come to a place in myself when I had a crisis of faith. If this isn't true, then why believe it? And I think I talked to Dr. Walt Kaiser, who is the president of Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary, and he said the same thing. He says, our kids and grandkids are going to ask the same question. If it's not true, then why should I go to church? Why should I read the Bible? Or why should I even pray? But the reality is there is truth here. There is evidence that matches it, that it makes more sense, these events that we're seeing show up in this investigation. It gave me a confidence that the Bible was matching the archaeology.
And isn't that exciting?
Yes.
When you get to go see the proof and everything.
Yeah, it is.
Traveling around the world.
I think that if we look at different times in history in the Bible, there are times when, in the stories of the Gospels, Jesus would perform miracles, and it still wasn't enough. It doesn't mean that evidence is going to convince anyone. People can also ignore the evidence. I was studying that it was like when Lazarus was raised from the dead, they still wouldn't buy the fact that who Jesus was. So as we look at it, we realize that there are some people that aren't going to believe regardless, because it's really an issue of the heart. Are they willing to basically say, this looks like, for some it's very important, because it tells them that there is a history to their faith, and it encourages them, and it should encourage us.
I think it is a big encouragement. You've got this kind of proof. Sometimes they won't listen to the spiritual side of things, but they will listen to logical proof.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that they'll necessarily believe, because that comes as a gift from God.
One of the things that people have been telling us is that the films that we're making, the products that we're making, they're being seen around the world. What's really been good about them is that they basically affirm the Bible. They affirm the history of the Bible, but they do it in a way that allows for debate. So we have atheists or agnostic or scientists or archaeologists that basically are telling us what they see or what they don't see. And we're able then to compare that with even evidence that they've put up. And what we're showing people is that there is a pattern that matches all this. And why is that so important is that if you have a family member, well, personally for yourself, at least you can see that, wow, this looks like there's evidence for Joseph, and there's evidence for the Exodus, and there's evidence for the conquest. But when you show it to your son or your grandson, or you show it to your uncle or your friends, and they're people who are critical of any of this, the way the film is made is that they can watch it and they can go, you know what, it does seem like the argument is from both sides. And because of that, it makes this film very, very shareable.
Right. Yeah, it's very user-friendly.
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't have to feel embarrassed by showing it to someone because it's got both sides. Their position, if they're a skeptic, is going to be represented. Some people say I've represented the skeptics maybe more so than I did the people who were defending it. But the evidence then starts to pop up. And that's very hard to refute.
It is. I think you did a really good job of that.
Thank you.
So,
If your listeners would like to, or viewers would like to know about this, we do have a website. They can go and learn more about the first film or about the books that we have. We've got the Young Explorer series. It's at patternsofevidence.com. Patternsofevidence.com. And we also have the new Evidence of Faith book that's coming out. And then they can sign up, actually, for what we call Thinker Updates.
oh, fun.
And I don't know if you've done that yourself,
No,
but you can go to our
I didn't know
website,
about
sign up, because it gives you all sorts of new information about new evidence, new finds that are coming out. We try to do it 3 or 4 times a month, not too much, but it just keeps you in the loop, biblical evidence and archaeology.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, what a lot of people don't realize is that the Bible, we've been presented this on our show with like Josh McDowell and others, the Bible has more evidence for it than any other historical document, and by far. And now you're giving us the archaeological and historical evidence in addition, so you're doing a great service.
I appreciate that, and I think you're absolutely right. Most people are distracted. I think that there's a lot of things in the world that distract us from the important things. There's a lot of amusement that goes on, and there's actually someone wrote a book about being amused to death. You know, we have a culture that basically lives for amusement. And you know the word muse means think, and I believe it's means not.
Right.
You know, so not to think. That can be dangerous for people if that's all they do, because there's times when they do need to think. But what do you think about? You need to think about things that are good, things that are pure, things that are true. And I see you've got Heritage of Truth here. You know, well, what is the Heritage of Truth? And if we look at it, as I might have mentioned to you before, I grew up in a single-parent home. My folks divorced when I was young, and my mother read to us the Bible, and she put confidence in that. And the Bible actually, in the Gospels, says the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So this is not just a book, which some people would say is just a book of literature, but it actually says there's more to it than that. I think that it's important for people today, especially when there's so many things going on in the world, for them to understand what's true and what is that heritage of truth that is foundational, so that then they would actually know, what they're building their life on, or what they need to encourage their family and how they should live their life. And so as my mother read to us these stories of the Bible, I think that foundation was sort of starting. So when I went to Egypt and had this crisis of faith when they said there was no evidence for it, it took me this long process of really vetting that out. That's basically what has happened in my life. And then I wanted to share that with the people, because a lot of people don't know about this. This is why I think it's important to have, your own. I mean, I'm biased, but to get a copy of this or share with your family, because they are going to need to know that there is a history to their faith, and there's a heritage to that truth that is passed on from generation to generation. Do you know where the passage is that talks about building your house not on sinking sand?
I don't remember the reference, but yeah, it's in one of the Gospels.
Yeah, I think the issue is that what are we building our life, our families on? And is it going to be on a solid rock, or is it going to be on just the philosophies and the theories of the day? And some people, I think, have a mixture. And I think the issue is we have to really make sure that what we're building our life on is a foundation that will stand.
Yeah, the foundation that will stand is Jesus Christ. It's God's truth. It's God's word. Yeah, I mean, otherwise the sinking sand, we can't, even the ideas of science, they change all the time, like the shifting sands. verses that God has told us. Go figure.
Yeah, and so that's why we're doing these films. I think it's something that is. I think it's for my own sake too. By the way, I mean in some ways I'm proving it out for myself and for my family. And not everybody can go, to places like I have been able to go. And so I'm taking you there and being able to demonstrate and ask questions. And one other thing I would share with your audience is we don't have to be afraid about questions.
That's for sure.
I actually had a friend of mine whose son had questions about the Bible, and his youth pastor said, "Don't worry about it. Come on, let's go get some pizza." And, well, he did worry about it, and eventually, after the first semester of college, he told his parents, he says, "I'm an atheist. I don't believe in anything that you've taught me." Because those questions weren't answered. And I'm going back to Dr. Walt Kaiser. He said that we're all going to have questions. Something might happen in our life that would be a tragedy, or there could be questions about, especially with our culture that's coming so far against things that are in the Bible. And we have this question about, well, what do we believe? Maybe the Bible, maybe that's not applicable. And what Dr. Walt Kaiser said was, sometimes these questions, don't take them off the stove, just put them in the back and let them simmer. And over time, you can basically re-examine that. Jesus used questions and parables many times. He would ask these questions. They get you to think. And so I think that we can have questions, and don't be afraid of our kids having questions, because they need to get those questions answered. And when I answered the questions in my own life and dealing with my crisis of faith, I became so much stronger because I own those questions. And I think that our kids and our grandkids have to own those questions. They need to answer those questions. They need to know what those questions are.
And they need to do it before they get to college.
Right. We don't always have to give kids answers. We need to give them questions and help them find the answers.
So basically, it's okay to let them ask the questions and search like you did. Because God said,